What's good, fellas?
What's going on now?
I don't know. You know what? Let's argue.
That's a good thing. We can do that.
We're not arguing.
I'm out.
We're not
head
arguing.
out.
This dude's over here checking his Christian mingle.
For his farmers only?
Yeah, man.
What do you think about this one?
Looks holy to me.
Looks holy.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Julius from Earth with the From Earth podcast. I am here with the homie Esoteric.
How y'all doing?
And the homie B. Davis.
Shining.
And this is episode 77. I forgot what we were supposed to talk about tonight, so we're just going to wing it.
Can we talk about how the Beats Pro earpods are not NFC chargeable capable?
I have no idea what you just said. That didn't register with me.
B, you know what I'm talking about, right?
They're not what chargeable?
NFC capable to be charged.
Wait, you're talking about two different technologies, bro.
Charge capability on the NFC, right?
NFC is not a charging capability.
But it's the transfer of data from one. But
No.
what is it?
No. NFC is near field communications. So like Apple Pay, that's NFC.
So when your thing kind of links to your phone?
MagSafe?
No.
Yeah, it's MagSafe.
No, wirelessly linked to your phone?
In Apple terms.
In Apple terms, okay.
It's MagSafe, yeah.
Then what is
But
the
the
charging
Beats
capability?
Pro don't have MagSafe on them?
No.
Nobody
MagSafe,
nobody
yes.
has any idea what you guys are talking
That's crazy.
about.
MagSafe, yes.
Like
So-
zero idea.
Yeah.
But when you're charging, the wireless charging,
Did you just buy some Beats Pro
I have
headphones or
I
something?
actually have a charger. It's a three-way charger for the phone, the watch, and
Yeah.
everything. I'm just like whatever.
Oh, well, you hear that? You hear the flex? You know, I got the Beats headphones with the Beats
I think
pill.
you're referring to QI charging.
Thank you. That is
Yeah.
UI.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, they sync with
Yes.
my BMW 5 Series
Yeah.
No kidding.
wireless charging.
They do actually.
Center,
yes, they do.
center console, no
That's not
plug-in
the phone
outlet,
doing that.
NFC.
How's your 5 Series B?
My 5 Series is all right.
Yeah, she clean out there. I see.
Yeah.
All right, so
I
real
just
quick,
armor rolled it down real quick.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
it's a little
saying?
shiny out there.
Had to keep the leather soft.
How's your 5 Series?
everybody, please ignore these two. Just ignore them. Real quick, before we get too far in, I just want to remind all the listenership that we are on YouTube at the From Earth podcast. I believe on YouTube. It's in the. It is
How
in
do you
the.
not know,
It's
bro?
in the description. Listen, bro. I got so many things going on. It's in the description. The From Earth podcast on YouTube. To the YouTube viewers, everybody that taps in, if y'all want to just check us out during the week, we're streaming on all the digital streaming platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it is. Y'all done with your tech talk?
Not yet. Okay, we got this.
All right. So
Let's argue.
let's argue.
That's
All
good.
right,
We
so
haven't argued in a while.
We
bro.
haven't.
We haven't argued in a while, and this is why I want to come up with. I want to throw a scenario question out there for you guys, right? So I want to know, like, just let's be real for a minute here.
Okay.
I want to know if any of you guys ever really struggle with like not being the man in your current, like in your current setting at work or whatever. And I'm asking that question. I'm saying not the man. I'm talking like used to being like the head honcho. Here's an example. Growing up, I used to play sports, right? Always one of the better players on the team. It afforded me an opportunity to play in college, blah, blah, blah. Throughout the entire time, because of my position amongst my peers, there was always just kind of like that understanding that I could get the job done because I was the guy that they could count on.
You were a pitcher, right?
I was.
Okay.
Right. So now fast forward to my current life, I'm, you know, in my career wise, there have been a couple of different avenues that I've been involved in where I was really, really solid
Right.
in some of the things that I did. I was very well versed. I understood top to bottom what I was doing, the expectations and everything like that. And I was one of the go-to guys. And I'm wondering how people, if any of you guys have ever struggled with feeling as if you're not really like matching up to that top tier in your personal life. You know, if you can give any examples.
That's a tough one, man.
It's loaded.
That's tough because like we all have bosses,
Yeah.
right? So it's like I feel like if you're not the CEO, you're just kind of another guy. In some respects, right? But like with my job, I do have a fair amount of autonomy and freedom to do what I have to do. Fortunately,
Yeah.
right? If I didn't have that, I would probably not be in the job that I'm in.
Do you feel like you're one of the best people at your job?
Yes.
And because of that, like you can rely on that feeling to know like I can get the job done no matter what.
Yeah.
And that makes you feel like a sense of what? Pride, accomplishment, like,
Sense of being overworked.
Well, that goes without saying.
And underpaid at that point.
That
you know
goes
what
without
I'm saying?
saying,
Like
right?
that's like, to me, it's more of a burden to be the man at work sometimes. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in a position where you are feeling like you're fairly compensated for what you do. You know what I'm saying? So,
What about, and I'm sorry, I know I keep adding different little
Go for
caveats to it, but I'm
Yeah.
really trying to get to something here. What about in your personal life? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've peaked at, your top level of success?
Nah.
Personal success?
No.
Or
I don't think anybody will ever reach their peak. That's why people just keep doing what they're doing.
But I think people give up at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like I think for a lot of people, they feel like this is it for me. This is as far as I'm going. I'm never doing anything more than this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's kind of that's. I don't understand how you can really ask that, because even if you reach the peak of what you're doing, is that really the end?
well,
You know what I mean? It's like you'll never know.
all right. So that's a good point, right? I'm asking you personally. Like I'll give my personal example, right? I've been struggling a little bit, kind of like mentally, with different things, especially within the past week. Feeling like, man, I wish I was able to do more, contribute more. I wish I had a bigger house. I wish I had more money in the bank. I wish you know what I mean?
Right now, I'm singing every single Skilo line.
and just trying to think of like will that
wish
ever?
You were a baller.
Yeah, right. Will that
I
ever?
wish you were taller.
No, I don't. I don't care about my height. I don't care about my height at all.
Good.
That's not an issue. Which one? As long as I'm standing on stacks that make me look 7 feet, that's all that matters. But no, all jokes
But is
aside,
that enough?
think about it like this: like, if your plan is to become a multi-millionaire,
Right.
do you see an avenue and an outlet for you with what you're currently doing right now to getting to that point? And I'm asking because it's like, do we all maybe want something more than what we have? Possibly. But I'm not talking about the masses. I'm talking about you individually.
Me individually, one thing I do a lot of is network.
Yeah.
Right? And one thing I stand firm on is, we only know what we know. So for me to get to any platform, like you mentioned, multi-million, for an example, I can't be with the same people who have been with me in the same walk. I need to be with people who are walking in that to understand how they move, to understand how they get to where they are, and to understand the dedication, how they think, what it takes to sacrifice, time that they put in for all that types of things, because that might not be something I'm willing to even put up with. Not saying I wouldn't. I'm just saying, in a standpoint of trying to get to that. Like, what's the sacrifice I have to make to get to that point? Then I'll go back to that. But to answer your original question that you asked, I think a lot of times, we could be the best at what we do, but it's not. We may know it, but it's, do other people understand it and take advantage of that? Not in a negative way, just more or less, recognizing who the leader is, regardless of position.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about leaders. Leaders doesn't make a difference of who is technically in charge. It's the person that everybody counts on, because leaders make sure shit gets done. Leaders make sure everybody understands the principles, and no one's left behind, so to speak. In that aspect where I might be a low level employee and CEO might not be his business, but I'm the guy that makes it work.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, like, look, you can't run this without that guy.
Yeah. Have you ever been at a place of employment or anything like that where you realize that either this is not for me, or I'm not very good at this, or I need to figure out how to improve? Have you ever had that feeling?
I think a lot of times jobs are just a reflection of what we're willing to do. They're not really, you can work anywhere. I mean, 80% of people who graduate with a degree don't even use it, but they're still employed somewhere.
So you've never had that feeling, is what
I've never had that feeling, because I don't make that my feeling. I try to be the best at whatever it is I'm trying to get into. Because again, you can't teach drive. You can't teach, leadership. You can't teach those things. You can teach the job, tangible things, OJT and the whole nine, but you can't teach me how to be, to wake up every morning wanting the first one in, last one out. You can't teach that. You know what I mean? You can't teach, bro, this is, this is actually a personal, for me, because I know so many people I've impacted to that question you're saying. And I take pride in helping others reach the levels that they're looking at, and being the leader of where I'm at. I'm not the guy in charge of it, but everybody comes to me, even the person in charge for that matter, to where they trust me. And I think that's the biggest thing is, with that comes the trust of the people around you, knowing that you're that guy.
So that's I'll say this. I feel like you may be, according to your response here, you may be a bit of an outlier.
Possibly.
And I say that because I feel like even like large corporations, CEOs understand that you're not going to get 100% employee, complete
buy-in.
Satisfaction buy-in,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be there's tiers. You have a top 10% or however you look at it, a middle 70% or 65 or 80%.
It's 20, 60,
and then a bottom 20%, right? And for that bottom 20%, it's like, how do you convince those people? Unless you're just one of those people who's like, you're going to go. No, I'm saying not convince them to buy in, but help them understand what they're currently doing is not for them.
You don't. If you're a corporation, you don't worry about the bottom 20. You never worry about the bottom 20. The 60% is the most influential group of that, because your top 20 is going to always perform. Those are your performers. But your 60 can be influenced by the top or the bottom 20. And those are the ones you want to focus on. That's going to determine where your company goes at that point.
And to be clear, you've never been in the bottom 20. You've never had that feeling.
Never had that feeling.
You're very fortunate.
Never had that feeling.
Very fortunate.
There was one, actually, I lied. One time, but that's because I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore in the field I was doing.
That's all I'm asking, right? Like that's a good point, because I feel like a lot of people kind of struggle with the feeling of, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right.
And maybe not having that self-awareness that if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like this is too much of a task, I don't enjoy it, or whatever. Like, maybe that's your sign, your indication that it's probably not for you. You probably want to look elsewhere, go elsewhere.
Yeah. I mean, in my battle, as much of a outlier it was, so to speak, it still was hard for me because I'm very strong-willed when it comes to certain decisions, and I believe in success, and you've heard me say it before, I strive to be perfect, but I settle for excellence, And when I'm doing things, I treat it as such.
Nigga, I ain't never heard you say that. My bad, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted him. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was crazy because in my head I was thinking that, and then you said it at the same exact time.
My bad. So
you two said you don't work with
you
or
strive.
for me.
You strive for perfection, but you settle for
excellence.
excellence. All right.
Never heard that shit.
Hey, we're gonna let him rock, bro.
We're gonna let him get this.
He got a groove going. My bad.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, but no. I mean, it's like that's my personal motivation for myself.
Yeah,
and I know I can't project that onto others. But I don't. With that comes telling. Again, I've been in the corporate world for 20 years. Dealing with the corporate environment, the corporate expectation, the corporate guidelines, and 19 of them I've always disobeyed to some aspect because it wasn't what was conducive for the success, and I'm the kind of guy that make it make sense. If this position's always open and you keep trying to, fulfill this position based on what your corporate structure is to grow, you're doing it wrong. You need somebody to come in to, do it and just be successful. And the one thing is with that is the success you gain against what they're asking you put you on a bigger spotlight now because they're looking for everything and anything to prove that you're wrong. It could be one little thing, no matter how successful you are. But they're looking for that one little thing that says, see, you should have did it our way. You know what I mean? I don't care how much money you made us. I don't care about that you didn't do X, Y, Z. So yeah, that you're wrong. And that's been my career, bro. Like I've been told by senior management and the whole nine and everything, like, you're phenomenal, but you don't listen. And I'm like, well, why you hire a leader? You advertise it. Everybody wants to, we're looking for a strong-willed individual and such, but the minute you got to move up, next is we need you to be a sheep. Fuck that. I ain't got that kind of time. Like, you're wasting your own time with that. You know what I mean? Like, that. Take a look on LinkedIn.
Would you, and B, I'm sorry if you have anything to add. I know I'm just asking questions.
No, I'm just listening to Mr. Settle for Excellence over here. You know what I'm saying? That's all. I got caught up in the moment, the emotions.
You got the emotions.
You know what I'm saying? The emotions of the moment got me.
I mean, see, there's this internal drive that you have when you're doing something that you really want to do, or you want to show somebody that, yeah, I can do this, right? Yeah. But then there's another side of it where I think there are a lot of people out here who are just struggling, who are really truly struggling with, am I doing the best job at, maximizing my life right now?
So the question I would ask them, you for that matter, is, what's your motivation? What's your motivation?
Yeah. No, that could be one question, a good question, right? Is it a question of motivation? Is it a question of not knowing? Is it a question of not caring? Is it a question of, feeling like no matter what I do, I always fail? Because then there's that too, right? Mm-hmm. Like, no matter what you do, you can be working hard. Like, here's another example. Mm-hmm. People who are working at building credit, you're taking all the little tips. Mm-hmm. You're paying incrementally. You're keeping your credit, bills or whatever under 30%. You're paying monthly or whatever. And then you have that 1 month where things just fall apart, mm-hmm. and you miss a payment. Incrementally your credit rate goes up when you're paying, right, but you missed it 1 month and then your score drops drastically. I mean, it can be disheartening.
It is, but you get back on the horse. You don't let what you know to happen and see the good from it, and the one instance of opportunity to bring you back. Nobody has ever been successful without failure. So how's that any different?
But what about people who've never experienced success?
But they have to have the motivation to want more than the current situation.
So you're thinking,
or surround themselves with the people who know. But again, it's still nobody can make any of us do what we don't want to do. If you wake up and you say, I want to change my credit tomorrow, okay, what are the steps you're going to do? How are you going to get there? If you're going to, I need to research, I need to find people who know how, if I got to see a credit counselor, if I got to see a financial advisor, whatever. Those are steps, uh-huh. Tangible steps, but the intangible is your drive behind it. Nobody can change that but you.
I mean, Babe, you could jump in at any time, bro.
Yeah.
But I know we can go back and forth on this, but I think that there's another part in here too, to where if we are talking about, I know where the example is credit, but if you're not making enough money,
what's that got to do with anything,
bro?
That's got a lot to do.
It's got a lot to do.
You can't just
credit has nothing to do with money. Credit's how you spend your money.
Fam, if you start off in the hole, if you're already in the hole,
okay, but that's nothing to do with money. Again, credit's how you spend your money. For an example, I have a friend of mine, 6 figures, right? And we actually sat down and did an analysis on this. And what it came down to was, even though this person makes that kind of money, based on where I am versus where she is, my spending power is more than where hers is because of how little debt I have. So I can do more, even though she's making more. You know what I'm saying? It's all based on what you're doing with your money. It has no difference. You can make 40 work. You can make 20 work. It's what you're doing with that. If you are in debt and you start in the hole, fine. Fix one, then go on to the next.
That's what, there we go. There's a tangible response to this because everything I've heard up to this point is do better. That's been your response.
That was a nonsensical response, bro. Like,
no, it's not slander. What I'm saying is that, like, that's a good first step would be focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. Right? If you're struggling with your weight and you're struggling with your credit and you're struggling with your car payment and you're struggling with it's like you got to pick one. Got to pick one, focus on that.
But you have to understand, we're talking about credit in this aspect, but for this situation, you got to identify the necessities at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's
Absolutely.
important right now? Do you need to be paying the credit card, or is that car payment more?
Yeah, but saying that you don't make enough money isn't really a problem. Like that's a problem. Like you like we have to recognize the fact that there are people that just don't make enough money.
Yeah, I get that. But if they don't make enough money out there in the club spending $350 in bottles,
Why do we assume that just because
saying,
somebody's not making enough money is spending $350 in the club?
if you're
buying
not
bottles,
listen,
though,
if
bro.
you're not making enough money, then you should live within the means of what you're making. And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I'm just saying, don't overspend what you can't afford.
No, I hear you. And the words themselves make sense, right? It makes sense to say don't spend what you can't afford, right? The issue with that is let's look at the cost of living, bro.
Yeah, we
Like
talked about that.
look how much it costs to actually just
Bro, you
live.
need $25 an hour. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Just to be okay.
Right. That
A
is not
little bit of savings.
Right, but that is not where minimum wage is at,
Of
bro.
course not. I know that. We talked about that.
Yeah. So I mean
We're not
that's what
putting
I'm
that.
saying.
That's no, you're not wrong. You're 100% right. But in context, what we're talking about specifically is the principles behind it, not necessarily.
No, absolutely, and I get that, but I think what Jay is more getting to is just like, do you feel like you lost already, and then how do you turn that feeling to, I still have an opportunity to win?
I think us as men, we tie our worth to our finances. We all do. That's how we operate as being providers.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I think that's an honest, natural feeling to have. But then you have to sometimes, okay, what are you going to do with that? You know what I mean? And you're going to have to, you got to cry, you got to cry. You got to pull up your bootstraps, you got to pull them up. You know, whatever the fuck you got to do. But you can't stay there. You know what I'm saying? If it's affecting you that much, you can't stay there. You have to make a choice of some sort to say, okay, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So this is what I'm going to do. And again, whatever that takes.
Right, what you just said, right? Number one, you said you have to make a choice. That was number one. And then you said, this is what I'm going to do. There's a gap in between that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
That's the abyss.
They may have already made up in their mind, I don't like living like this. I don't like feeling like this.
Right.
I don't like struggling like this. But getting to that point of what I'm going to do to change it.
Right. How do you change it? Like how do you affect change that manner? So like when you asked earlier, Jay, like, you know, if you felt like you was in a job or in a position to where you were underappreciated or whatever you want to go. Like, I think most people have felt that, and especially people that realistically want to be and have the tools to be successful.
Right.
Because not everybody can be the man. Not everybody can be the boss. Not everybody can get the top promotions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not, that's not how job structure works, but that's also not how people work. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, some people have to be at the bottom. That's how the shit is built, right? Like, some people have to be down there. And there are some people who are content with being there. And there are some people who aren't content, but do nothing with, you know, to make themselves better to move up. But then you have that sliver of people that are capable. You have that sliver of people that are qualified. You have the sliver of people that do put in the time and put in the effort in what they do to be better, right? And that's kind of the zone of where these questions really kind of live.
Well, let's be real. I mean, we've seen, you know, athletes go bankrupt. We've seen it. So, you know, again, it doesn't really come down to what you're making if you don't know how to run what you have.
Yeah, but you're right.
That's a whole different set of problems, bro. Like, if you blow through $30 million, that's a different set of problems than, you know, I'm trying to move up. Nah, bro.
It's the same
that is not the same problem.
If you're blowing through $30 million, you don't understand how to use money. It's the same problem of someone who's making little and still doesn't understand how to use money.
The original, so getting kind of back to some of the original point, right? Because money is always going to be an issue for people who don't have it.
Yeah.
Right. So no matter what, if you don't make enough of it, you don't have it, it's going to be an issue. If you make enough and you blow through it, you got another set of problems, like B said. But take money off the table, and I'm just talking about, like, if you look at your life as it is currently situated.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with where you're at currently in your life? And have you ever dealt with the feeling of I don't like where I'm at right now, and how did you address it?
That's how I ended up leaving one of my jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was that exact situation. You know what I mean? I applied for a promotion my promotion got denied, while the people who interviewed me and were doing the hiring came to me and said, we know that you have more knowledge about this position than anyone here in this facility. We know that you know how to do this better than anyone else. And yet you're giving the job to another person. Gotta go. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes they're gonna make the choice for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I probably should have made it prior to that myself, but they made it a whole lot easier at that point. You know what I'm saying? And for me, that was like, all right, we're doing a whole career change now. We're moving in a whole different direction. So I've done a complete 180 work-wise since then. I'm in a much better place.
Yeah.
Much better place than where I was then and where I would have ended up getting to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like my thing is always like, I got to eat regardless. So if you don't give me a spot at your table, I just make my own. I'm going to find someplace to put a plate. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's just how we kind of have to think about it. But again, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily think that way, feel that way, move that way, because they're not built that way. But for the people that are, when those situations arise and you have that opportunity put in front of you, then the question is, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Do you want to sit here and get disrespected? You know what I'm saying? Like, because at a certain point, it is disrespect. Like, if they know what you're capable of, if they know what you can do, they're asking you to do all the things that they don't want to pay you for. It's disrespect. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when Jay-Z said, "Do you want to be overpaid or underrated?" I'll take overpaid every day.
But there's also a lot of testing.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
because
take it every day.
You know, a lot of times they'll see how much you're willing to do and sacrifice to get to what you want. So,
nah, that shit's out the window,
no,
bro.
It's really not, bro.
That shit's out the window.
It's not. I've seen it. I mean, it could be both ways. It's a catch-22 if that's the case. But a lot of times, some companies, corporate for that matter, will do a lot. I mean, we talked about what you do. You know what I mean? They'll put more on your plate. You know, we've seen you were able to do it, obviously.
How often do you see that actually pay off for people?
No, I'm not saying it does or does not.
Like
I'm
that,
saying
like that's the problem. Like
there is a positive that can come out of it, and there's a lot of negative that can come out as well. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong in this. You can get two different results from the same question asked, if that's or burden for that matter. But you know, it just depends. I think on the positions we're looking at, the structure of the company, or the environment you're in, for what you're doing specifically. I mean, I know it's. That's just one of those kind of like set it and forget it kind of situations where you're at, and the conglomerate that includes. But these private companies and things of that matter. I mean, no, I don't want to say private. Corporates for that matter. It's like you could be that leader, but now they're like, all right, let's see how much you're willing to sacrifice to get to where you're going to get.
And that's where the nonsense of jobs comes.
And they'll never tell you about it. And a lot of times they want to see, and it's like if you do it and you do it for 6 months, and the promotion comes, they overlook you for somebody who is less qualified, who hasn't been put through the same ringer. Yes, you're absolutely right. Everything you say makes sense. But they're saying, hey, look, we have this interview coming up. We want you to go, come to it, and someone else interviews with it. Chances are you both would put through the same thing if they came to you with that. If they're just using you, because that happens a lot too, where people are just like, yeah, well.
And that's what I'm saying. It's
right.
a thin line between you're just getting used and abused versus, we want to see what this person is.
I'm not familiar with the field of what works for you specifically and how your field works. So, I don't want to talk for that. But,
right. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
I think the idea of loyalty and sacrifice in corporate America is some bullshit. At the end of the day, if you ask me to do something, pay me appropriately. Right. Plain and simple. Like that's really where the line should be. You ask me to complete a task. You ask me to complete more tasks than the person next to me. You ask me to complete more tasks that bring in more money to the company than the person next to me. Show me in my paycheck.
It's funny you say that because, and it's not to say you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, a lot of times, what is that? Is there a certain dollar that you could say is your value?
Yes.
Now, for me personally, I'm not concerned about dollar value, right? I think for me, I'm talking about just a quality of life where I feel this is, I am enjoying what I'm doing. I'm enjoying my time with my kids. I'm enjoying my time, to vacation. I'm enjoying what I do every single day. That's what I'm talking about. right? So it's not about an actual dollar. Would I take more dollars? Absolutely.
So can I ask you a personal question?
You can.
Is there anything currently that you would say you would change that would make your life better? You don't have to answer.
No, that was my original question.
No.
That was part of the question.
For you right now, because everything you said you just did, done. You're doing. But I'm saying, like, are you not happy with what you have, or is there something that you say could some dynamic that would change for that?
I will tell you this, right, and then we can talk more off mic about it. But I will say this: that absolutely there are a handful of things that if I could change, if I could snap my fingers right now and change it, I would.
Okay.
All right. And it's one of those things that absolutely does affect how my day-to-day works.
Okay.
Because it's at the forefront of my mind. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot of people, I personally believe, that feel very similar. They may not necessarily want to talk about it or whatever, because talking about this as a man kind of comes off as being weak, as being less than, you see what I'm saying? And we don't want to project that ever, or I don't ever generally want to project it, but I like to keep it real when I can.
Right.
So that's for me. I would go around the room, but I know we got two real niggas sitting here in this conversation.
You could do it. It's probably real. He's the one bail.
Well, because he's going to bail. And so, like, you know, I think that the premise or the what I was trying to get to overall with the conversation was, if anybody out there is struggling with how their life has turned out, you know, try not to. My advice would be, try not to compare yourself to the person next to you, because you don't know what their set of circumstances were or are. But if there's something that you really, really want, like you were saying earlier, Esso, let's try to buckle down and figure out how to get that thing.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, look, if there's shit that, you know, any one of us are going through, you know, I'm with it. You know, I'm with you. You know what I mean? Like, you want to change something? I'm with you. Whatever it is, I got you. You know what I mean? Like, you know that. And you too, B, I guess, but but no. But I think this is a lot of times where people, you know, I would say that the struggle I've had. Well, first of all, I'll say this before anything. I think the three of us here have all worked for everything we've got. Zero handouts for the most part. I don't think anybody was handed, you know, an opportunity that you didn't have to work hard for, have to beat somebody out for, had to lose to, at that matter. You know what I mean? I think we all, at some point, felt defeated. Unless I'm wrong. You know? All right, so I think the examples that, you know, we're setting, you know, in its own way, we're still kind of outliers to that, because we are where we are now. You know, we're not suffering in any way. We're not behind the eight ball anyway. We can tweak a certain thing or here too, just to change dynamic. Yeah, you're right. We could all do that no matter what level we're currently at. But that's none of us are behind any eight balls. We have family. We have friends. We have luxury. We have food on our table. We got a roof over our heads. We've got all our needs being met for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So if there's something more that you want, that's where the ideas come in. Now it's putting it in the drive. It's like, my needs are being met. Now I need to, you know, put something for my wants. I want to be better than where I'm at. My needs could be raised a little bit. You know what I mean? I want a bigger house. Let's do that. What do I got to do with that? You know what I'm saying? It's not a need at this point, because you're comfortable. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying generally speaking. But the house is something different. You know what I mean? You want a house? Fine. What do you got to do to get that? Well, I know I got to do this. You know what I mean? Whatever that may be. So, you know, collectively, I mean, I think the defeats that we've gone through, the struggles we've had, especially as black men, man, it makes us all stronger. We're a little bit resilient to the bullshit. You know, like, we can sit here and cry about it. It's like, you know what? We've been struggling all our life, and yet here we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. There's not much more drive I think any one of us really needs outside of just being who you are.
I think success is personal, and I think people have to figure out how they want to define their own success.
Absolutely.
Like, what's successful to me might not be successful to Esso.
Absolutely.
What's successful to Esso might not be successful to you, Jay. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's difficult to have a conversation about success and failures when we could all say the same words and have 3 completely different meanings of what success and failure look like. You know what I'm saying? If you are a person that says, well, I feel like I'm successful because, I'm raising great children and they're going to grow up to be able to take care of themselves and feel good about themselves, great, that's your success, right? If you feel like you're successful because, you make 6 figures and you've got investment properties and this, that, and the third, cool, that's your success. You know what I'm saying? But like, you've got to figure out what success is to you, and if you're not there, how to get to it.
I think because him and I heard the same word one time, and it was basically, we're told that you always celebrate others' success, no matter how small it may be to you, because you don't know, like you just said, you don't know how big it is to them. Mm-hmm. And in that comes the comfort, And again, I don't think, none of us are sitting here measuring the level of success that what stands for each of us, but we'll celebrate it as if it's our own,
right,
with you.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And I think that's something collectively we agree. But again, if you can't celebrate the small successes of others, then really, who are you? You know what I mean? Like, you can't be that kind of a person to where you think just because it's not what you want or where you're at, that yours is greater than somebody else's. You know what I mean? Because at this point, like I said, excluding the tangible part of that, I'm looking at the drive behind the person. They got what they wanted.
Yeah,
meanwhile,
you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really that's what it comes down to, man. Like, how much influence are you gonna have? Are you gonna let other people or other situations have over you at the end of the day?
Right.
Versus how much influence can you exert over your current position?
Yeah, these are good points.
You know what I mean? To me, that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, these are all great points. I'm thinking that we hit probably our marker for the evening.
Do we feel that Orlando Brown is successful?
No, I would say pray for Orlando Brown, but I don't think any amount of prayer is going to help that dude. I don't think any amount of prayer.
Kyrie get traded yet?
Kyrie, I'm sure, is still
Rob
waiting on his
definitely unsuccessful
on his move.
Definitely unsuccessful week for Rob Pelinka.
Fellas, I do want to say thank you. I appreciate the candid conversation this evening. Right, it's a little bit different than what we've been doing, but I think it was necessary. It was needed, helpful. I'm hoping that anybody who tapped in to listen to it was able to extract something from it. I got nothing else. B, you got anything?
Nah, I'm good.
I do, actually. I want to talk about the video that B did for us last week. Intro, bro.
B.
What?
Yeah, yo.
What?
Clap it up for B. Clap it up for B.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, B, he did a fantastic job putting some stuff together for us. I appreciate it. And I feel like every time I ask B, I'm like, yo, here, I got this, and can you do that? And he always makes that vision come to life. So I just want you to know, B, that you're appreciated and you're valued.
Thank you, man.
You had me at the Monopoly money, though.
Yeah. That
was a great shot.
That was a great shot.
It's a fantastic job, and I'm hoping that everybody who's watching can also find appreciation for some of those things as well, because it's not there's sweat equity being put behind those things. And
video editing is not what I do, but apparently it's what I do.
Yeah. What you do. So we recognize and we appreciate it. So thank you.
That's your excellence kicking in.
Yeah. Facts. Facts. All right. Well, I got nothing else. This is the end of episode 77. This is Julius from Earth signing out. Peace.